Well, you know what, folks? Let's get right into why the games community wants Xbox dead. This has been a running narrative, and this is not anything new, right? Like, you can go all the way back to the original Xbox, and obviously, it was it was something new for Microsoft. It was a new competitor in the space that was run by Sega, which when Sega was running strong with their with Dreamcast, of course. Nintendo was always going to be there, and PlayStation had put out the PlayStation 1, and then obviously, just look at history, folks. It's the PlayStation has been a major part of gaming for decades, and they continue to be the market leader with console sales, and they are doing some different things that they haven't done in the past. Kind of what Xbox did to get all the arrows, but one of the most interesting thoughts and theories with gaming today, we're talking about like today's gaming, is when you go to social media. First of all, it's not real. Let's be clear. I'm going to pull a Paris Lilly quote right out of my back pocket. So Paris, if you listen, shout out to you, brother. Um, the internet isn't real, folks. It's real that it exists, but it's an echo chamber for hate mongering POSs. And they're mad at the world for one reason or another, whether that's their life choices or just the way the life has been dealt to them. They're going to yell. And in being angry at the world, when you get into talking about video games, that is now taken and used for engagement. Hate engagement, unfortunately, in social media is a thing. And in games media, it is something that generates a lot of clicks, which generates a lot of money. And that's ultimately what the business is, and it's sad. But why I wanted to talk about this is for two reasons. First of all, is the hate that Xbox is currently under, or the scrutiny that Xbox is under, warranted? The answer is yes. They have done some real stupid shit, folks. That's the most barbaric and best way I can say it. The price increase of Game Pass, in my opinion, was $5 too much. I've been banging the drum against it since it was announced. The rise of the console pricing was ridiculous, considering that they weren't selling consoles at the other price. What makes you think you're going to sell consoles, at the new price, which are high? And then, of course, your mileage is going to vary based on the third-party adjustment, meaning that they're putting games on PlayStation and eventually Nintendo. I mean, I've come to accept it, like Dirt Griggity and many of the Xbox purists, and there are some that refuse to accept it, and that's fine. And a lot of the things that Xbox has done right are completely overshadowed by the few things that they've done wrong. And again, we're not here to defend the $4 trillion company, folks. What we're trying to get at is why there's such a unbelievable negativity towards the brand. I mean, they have been doing things for its consumers positively for years. And yes, do I think that it was a bonehead move to raise Game Pass? 1,000%. No one's even questioning that. But the reason why I bring up this topic today is because it's a hot button topic, and I'm going to bring up two people specifically. Well, Jez Corden of Windows Central, who's a good friend of this show, great friend of the community, and one half of the Xbox 2 podcast, has had his pulse on the gaming aspect when it comes to hate narratives, focusing in on Xbox. He wrote an article, and Windows Central on Twitter posted, Xbox's negativity has reached new heights not seen since 2013. Is it all worth it? Microsoft ? Now, granted, it is an opinion piece, ladies and gentlemen. And, he does ask a pretty interesting question to open up as the title. In its quest for infinite money, Xbox has alienated its fans and everything it once was. Will it even be worth it in the end? Microsoft. And he goes into saying, the subquoting here, Microsoft, let me see. If you're an Xbox fan, the past couple of weeks have felt more dire than usual. There's a meme in the Xbox community which runs along the lines of Xbox is dead, And then followed by Xbox is back, flipping backwards and forwards as Xbox does both positive things and creates positive momentum, and then steps on a rake and thwarts everything it's built. And unfortunately, that is really the running narrative. Now, again, I think they've done way more positive than they've done negative. I think there are still a lot of people that have this hate narrative mentality about Xbox Game Pass. They don't like it because their brand of choice isn't doing it, and if they are, it's it's subtle at best. Like if you look at what PlayStation is doing now this month, they have a great lineup for PlayStation Plus. I mean, a phenomenal lineup, as a matter of fact. That should be every month. Now, Xbox has been delivering that, pretty much every month. And what we saw what games are coming out for October. And that list is stacked, and 3 of them are brand new first party games, right? So it's they're doing it right. But then they do bonehead moves that make you scratch your head, like, I don't understand why. But I want to bring into the conversation outside of the Jez Corden article, Derek Strickland. Now, why I bring up Derek Strickland is because if you don't know who he is the owner and operator of Tweaktown, which is what, ladies and gentlemen, a PlayStation-focused site, meaning that they are for the PlayStation players. And even though Derek and I will never agree on everything, I got to give him credit for what he said here. This is probably going to go down, at least in my opinion, as many articles as I read, one of the most pointed and great way of looking at the overall big picture of gaming that he has written in a very, very long time. So I want to read it verbatim, folks. Now, the reason why I'm reading this one specifically is because there's a call for Xbox to be out, to get out of the industry. I think it would be disastrous if you just left Sony and Nintendo in charge of the industry and there was no Xbox to keep them in check. It would be $100 games at the minimum. But here's what Derek Strickland had to say, folks. I'm going to read it verbatim from his post from last night. Derek goes on to say this: Xbox exiting or gaming would be have such an enormously negative drag effect on the industry that it would upend the entire thing. Y'all still don't understand how big Xbox is on a software and services level. It's fine to criticize, but don't call for the destruction of your hobby. And I mean, and so of course, he's getting a lot of slack from people because they're like, oh, wait, you're a PlayStation guy, you're defending Xbox. Well, he did respond to it, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what Derek had to say. And I mean a sudden, abrupt stoppage where Xbox just shuts down. They're a member of the big 3. They broker and facilitate billion-dollar deals all the time. They control the taps of many services and host a storefront. Xbox has its hooks into all platforms. It'll be bad if they go. And he goes on to say this: the childish engagement bait nonsense just creates a loop and no one really learns anything. I mean, again, folks, you may not appreciate what Derek said there, but I think he's on point. Now, granted, it is an Elseworlds kind of a conversation because Xbox isn't going anywhere. I mean, they just spent, nearly, $80 billion on Activision, right? We know that they're making money hand over fist, so they're not going anywhere. But there is a sentiment, Korkenstein, that suggests that Xbox should go away, and it's one that's not only foolish, but it's silly. And when you look at again, just taking a step back and looking at the overall picture, Xbox is as important as PlayStation, and PlayStation is as important as Nintendo. And the circle just goes round and round. Now you throw PC in there because PC is always going to be there. It has always been there. And for a lot of people, it's where most people game. But to see one be removed or the suggestion of it, I think is not only silly, but foolhardy. Let's get your thoughts on it, man.
Yeah. Hold on. I gotta get my evil, my dark hoodie on here real quick. There we go. My Sith hoodie, let the hate flow through you, like Emperor Palpatine. It's just silly, man. Like, I don't know why people want to have like such hate for a brand. Like, we're consumers, and it just, we're gamers, and like when you said it earlier, I kind of disagreed with it, because like nobody deserves hate, man. Like, like nobody deserves hate for something that's supposed to bring people together, and we're supposed to have fun, and we're supposed to enjoy this, and have conversations. And I think that's the big issue and the big problem here that we have in the gaming sphere, is that people just want to hate. They want to be angry,
Yeah.
and they want to lash out at the smallest little things. It's video games, guys. This shit's not that serious. It really
Yes.
isn't. And that's my biggest issue. And it's like, as I've always, wanted to do more as a content creator, but it's so frustrating because it's so discouraging, because nobody really wants to have conversations, like discussions. Like when I came on, when we did the whole breaking special thing, people were just angry for no reason. Like, I was trying to explain and have a discussion and see the value in something to understand, because that's always been one of my biggest things: seek first to understand before being understood. And that's something I've always lived by, and I always try to incorporate. And like, I was just trying to see, like, well, this has value to me. I know it won't have value to this person. And I can see, and just to have an honest conversation, rather than saying, boo Xbox, boo Microsoft, they suck. But and I got so much hate for it, just for just trying to have a conversation. And that's the issue. And that's why I'm so happy that there's people like you, like Umbra, Crispy, Fuzzy. We have great community people like Web Dave, Hargeet, Dirt, Paris in the chat. It's probably one of the best that actually wants to discuss and have conversations on this stuff, rather than just hate. And I have no idea why people want Xbox gone, because Derek's right. And I've this is probably the first time I've ever agreed with him. Um, it would destroy the gaming ecosystem. People don't realize that. You guys are pissed that Game Pass, that's giving you you guys are pissed that Game Pass is going to give you, or is raising the price $30, and they're going to give you 75 games. You get access to 500 titles at all. You're going to get first party things. You're going to get so much for $30. If you are pissed at that, wait until Xbox leaves the space, and you're looking at $2,000 PlayStation consoles, $120 Switch exclusive titles. There's going to be really nobody to kind of hold people back, to like keep that expectation, because they all need each other. There's a synergy there, and they all fight for for your value, for your time. And the less that are there to fight for your time, the more that they can control you and your wallet for this gaming hobby that you love, that you're passionate about. And that's that's horrible. You guys don't want that reality. You really do not want Xbox to leave the ecosystem, because right now, and yes, they did raise the prices a bit. Everywhere's raising the prices. Oh, they closed studios. Guess what? Numerous studios are closing. Is that Xbox's fault? You get people that are being laid off. It's sad. Everywhere right now it's happening. It's just because of the way the economy's shifting and how the industry is changing. They've ballooned their budget so much, trying to make these crazy Hollywood blockbuster AAA games, and it doesn't pan out. They don't see the return of investment, or if they do, their margins are single digits. That's horrible for them. So they got to find ways to adjust, to adapt. And as consumers, we're not going to like that. But this is a corp company. We're not supposed to like companies. Companies aren't our friends. Yeah, I got some pretty cool people that I like to talk to that work at Xbox. I see them every year when we come to LA. We all hang out. It's fun and stuff like that. But it's cool that. But I wouldn't say that they're my friends or that they have my best interests as a company. No, they're friends, but that's it. I don't really see, a company's not going to have your best interest. They're going to be for them, and that's how every company runs. So you can be as mad as you want at Xbox for doing this, but they're not there for your benefit in that sense. Yes, they are there for you to buy and consume their product, but they're not going to go out of their way and lose money to be your friend. And that's, no company's going to do that, and no company's going to shoot themselves in the foot and lose money because they want to be liked. I guess, I don't know. It's just weird. This parasocial kind of, or this I don't know what it is, where people feel like companies owe them something, and they really don't. The companies don't owe us anything other than to deliver a product that they're saying they're going to deliver. Now, if we pay for something and they're not doing that, then that's where we can hold their feet to the fire. But in the sense, companies aren't here for us. They're here to line their own pockets. And that's once we kind of realize, and once we take away that, listen, we're consumers. We're not businessmen. We're not sitting in the seat making these decisions and getting that, $30 million a year paycheck. That's not us. We're consumers, and we got to remember that when we talk about this stuff, and we got to start having more discussions. But yeah, that's for me. Xbox doesn't need to leave the space. If they did, it would be horrible for the industry.
I absolutely agree. You know, I want to shout out Paris Lilly, who I mentioned his name 3 times, and well, folks, he showed up. I want to throw his quote on there. Spewing hate is easy. Takes effort to have a reasonable conversation, end quote. And he's 1,000% right. Unfortunately, Paris, had some very public shenanigans thrown against him by a former Xbox fan. And I know that he jumped onto Dirt Show and kind of broke down what's going on there. So shout out to you, Paris. Even Danny Pena, getting hate from people for being invited to Obsidian to get a couple of hours worth of hands-on. Folks, that's called hard work. I find myself in, unfortunately, the crosshairs of the hate-mongering POSs, but, you put them on the pain of mind list. There's nothing they're going to say that's going to make me stop being a podcaster. And unfortunately, when you start getting recognized by companies like we have through Microsoft and Xbox, and you do get invited to do things with them, the hating community that doesn't or will never get invited will continue to just, say, spontaneous nonsense. But Crispy Bomb, Mr. Receipt Keeper, Xbox going away, I think, like Cork said, and like Derek Strickland said from Tweaktown, would be disastrous for the industry. I don't really think that the 4% of hardcore gamers that make up the space, especially on the PlayStation side of things, are going to force the narrative. But it is a narrative nonetheless. And again, as much silly things or boneheaded things Xbox has done to kind of shoot themselves in the foot or step on a rake, I can honestly say they've done more for the industry than ever before. I really do think that they keep the Nintendos and the PlayStations in check, because if they weren't there, we would have $100 games already. I mean, look, we started off this year with the Switch 2 and the first $80 game. And, obviously, Xbox kind of started to move, realized it was a mistake, then backed off. Now, are we ever going to get to $80 games? At some point, probably. Grand Theft Auto is going to be $100. That is going to be the first $100 game next year. I don't doubt that at all. And then when it hits $100, well, there you go. But I want to get your thoughts on this, because again, when you have people that have actual websites or work for a website like a Jez Corden or a Derek Strickland, and you start to see other places like Pure Xbox and other websites pick up these stories about the generated hate narrative towards Xbox and why they should leave the console business, you realize that it's a conversation that might seem elseworlds for sure, Crispy, but it's one that is actually happening, and it's happening in a way where there are sites reporting on it. I'm going to get your thoughts on this, man.
Well, let's think about this, okay? Xbox has innovated. Who has Game Pass? Xbox. Yep. Does Sony have the exact equivalent? Do they give you their day-and-date games? No, they don't. They have a service that does not technically compete with Game Pass. Regardless of my complete and total disdain for a 50% price increase, does not mean that you can't understand that if all these other companies aren't going to do it, Microsoft's going to look at that said thing and say, well, we're the only one, so why can't we raise the price? And this is where the competition argument comes into effect. Okay? You look at it, if Sony was the only we'll say AAA, modern gaming developer, and the only one that brought out hardware, they would charge you more. So to act like Xbox doesn't have a place here, you're crazy. And just think about in the past of their R&D and what they have developed. And you could just look at Xbox Live and what it has become, and how other gaming companies had to follow it. You got to realize that they are not ever going to stop trying to innovate, and they are going to take every single rocket ship and just just stone or whatever you want to call it in the head, and just continue to do things that most people will say, oh, it's going to kill gaming, oh, it's going to do this, it's going to hurt us as consumers. Well, these people that are doing these arguments are the same people that were screaming competition before when we were buying ABK. So what are we talking about here? I don't understand how these narratives continue, yet you can look back at these said people and they are screaming the same things that they all of a sudden want now. And I think people need to realize that even if, like, let's say it was Nintendo, which has their own way of doing things, and they were the only ones, it would be even probably worse, and they would charge even more. And that's where I say, like, if you look at their services in general, they don't charge a lot for them because there ain't much there. All right. So you got to look at that and say they release games that are great, but they charge a little, like, what is it, like $50 to be on their online, because there's not much there. They have not wanted to innovate. They haven't had the need. That has been their focus is services and how you can connect with people and things like that. Sony's somewhere in the middle there. I mean, a lot of people say that, hey, there's a lot of single player games. We don't have a lot of conversations, stuff like that. But at the same time, that's the exact opposite on Xbox. There's a place for a multiplayer gamer to really have a lot of engagement. And I think if you take that away, what are you going to get? You're going to get the bare minimum from some of these companies, and they're going to save face and save cost and look at it and say, well, we don't need to do that now. So it's just a hypocritical thought process to just say, Xbox, be done, we're done. And at the same time, look at it and say, but you can't purchase these developers. You can't do this and that because it's going to hurt competition. You can't have it both ways, people. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. And in realism, I'll never understand it. But hey, I look at some of these receipts and I'm like, yeah, just have an argument with me and I'll show you, type thing. But that's the way I look at it.
No, it's a phenomenal point of view. Hectic World in the chat said Microsoft did not step on a rake. They stopped losing money. Simple. And, I mean, look, Fuzzy, outside of the conversation of Xbox should be done, what I'm seeing from a lot of the very vocal trolls, and again, there are a couple that I and again, we don't do the names thing here, folks, because I'm not about that smoke. It's fine. But the outside of Xbox should be gone narrative is when you have someone like myself. I'm going to put myself on the front line here, like I always do, right? Your Honor, I'll go to the stand, right? It's no problem. I asked a question the other day where it was very simplistic in its nature. Can Xbox players still be excited about the brand? And some of the responses that I got were as barbaric as you would expect, which we won't, reread live on the air, and we won't say who it is because you don't want to give these trolls any clout. They're trolls. No one cares about them. Go under your bridge and sleep. No one cares. But I'm still excited about being an Xbox fan. I think there is a lot of reasons to be excited about being an Xbox fan. And again, I don't want to keep beating and reiterating, but yes, I am against any price increase to Game Pass. And I think it was a mistake, but it's done. And there are ways for you to still fix that. I just bought I bought 6 months worth of cards for $56 each on Amazon, and they're still on sale. So if you are someone like me who waits to 33 months and then re-ups, so I'm always at 36 months at one time or another, you're a winner chicken dinner. But the idea that you are quote unquote capping for the $4 trillion company because you're a fan of the brand is another most ridiculous narrative. And ultimately, it's sad. The people that I have gone back and forth with, and I don't go back and forth with, I'll make my post. I might, answer, just for a general conversation. And after that, I just either block them or mute them because they're not really here to have a conversation. Like Paris said, it's very easy to be a hateful piece of shit, but it's very difficult to actually sit down and have a thought out conversation. Unfortunately, that is the 4%ers of the interwebs that are on here claiming that Xbox should go, or that anyone that is an Xbox fan that still is excited to be an Xbox fan is quote unquote capping. Let's get your thoughts on this, man.
I'll try to keep this as quick as possible. Just a brief history of my PlayStation to Xbox transition. I went from PS1 to PC because of a game I saw on my brother's PC. I was like, screw consoles, PC is where it's at. And then Microsoft, this is before the Xbox, the original Xbox or 360 came about. PC gaming was great under Windows 98. And then Windows ME happened. And it was completely terrible as far as gaming. You had to go back in. Even if you had the pro version of ME or whatever it was called, like the enterprise version, it was still terrible as far as a lot of things when it came to allocating resources for the computer and so forth. So when I heard that they were making an Xbox, I was like, how can this company that's terrible at gaming for PC, they're great as far as if you want to do spreadsheets, but terrible for gaming on PC, despite, Flight Sim and other things that they've done, why would I ever bother with that? So Windows XP came out. It was great. Windows Vista, at least for me, because I was still rocking a Voodoo card at that point, was terrible. They wanted basically the software was pushing everybody or nudging everybody to upgrade their PCs to the latest and greatest. I thought it was a terrible idea. I didn't want to bother with Microsoft, so I completely ignored or skipped over the Xbox because of that. Microsoft was the bad guy in my eyes, so a console was not on my list. And then I saw that when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, and I PS3, I was one of the knuckleheads that, I only had one job, but I bought a PS3 nonetheless. And despite all of the bad press that they got and everything, enjoyed it until I saw what the Grand Theft Auto 5 looked like on a 360 compared to the PS3. If you've ever noticed, like on Grand Theft Auto, the sailboats on 360, they had actual sails. The flag poles and things like that you saw in the game had blowing flags in the wind. It wasn't like that on the PS3. It wasn't like that on the PS3, or they didn't get an update until actually Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on the PS4. Then there was like a backwards update or something. But for the longest time, there were things literally missing from the game. So I was close to getting the Xbox, but because of them saying, oh, well, the PS4 is right around the corner, I just went and ordered a PS4 instead of bothering with a 360. Jump a year ahead, Drive Club comes out. After being delayed, it was supposed to be a launch title. It comes out broken. It was supposed to be the Forza killer. It was terrible at launch for the online, which the online was the biggest component of it. So that automatically made me look over at Xbox and see what this Forza killer was supposedly killing. And I've been happy over at the Xbox camp ever since. It's as far as people wanting Xbox to get out of the game, we've seen how, and we've even heard the rumors of how PlayStation wanted to do $80 games instead of 70. And it was kind of like the EA and Take-Two execs that kind of talked them off that ledge kind of deal. We're going to eventually get to $80 games, and I'm not looking forward to it. But it is what it is. I'll just be more careful or choosy on which games I get day one as opposed to wait for a sale. But if Xbox as a brand goes out, you can guarantee that hardware will see increases. Like even as it stands, there's hardware increases on the other camps. So imagine having one less competitor That's one less person holding their feet to the fire or quote unquote keeping them honest when it comes to pricing. And no, I'm not talking about price fixing or anything along those lines. I'm talking about just like Korkenstein said, they're competing for our dollars. So if somebody is keeping a reasonable price point for the tech or the hardware that they're offering, the others have to kind of stay in line with that. The minute one of them decides that, oh, well, I'm just going to double my price or increase it $100, and the others don't necessarily do the same, that one that increases price is probably going to take a big hit in loss of sales. But they're all raising prices because of economic things that we can see or hear or experience directly, whether you go to the grocery stores, a car dealer, or to a Starbucks. It doesn't matter. Everything is going up, and it's outpacing the money coming in kind of thing. All of that being said, Xbox really should stay in, considering they are finally now getting to a cadence where they're releasing games on a regular basis and they're of quality. I know a lot of people will say, well, they're not quite the quality. No. Depending on the types of games you like, if you like RPGs, Xbox has a lot of them coming your way and they're of quality. I know there are other quality RPGs out there. Some of them tend to do a little bit better on PC, like your Kingdom Come Deliverances, because of the extreme depth and length of that game that you can get involved in. But those are still available on console if you choose to play it there. But for those that just want Xbox to go away, it almost feels like the 80s and 90s again. Being the car enthusiast I am, seeing how American cars were crapped on, and rightfully so after the 70s and 80s, where everything was the same body, just a different nose on it. Oh, it's a Pontiac with a Chevy, grill on it or something. It was ridiculous in that regard for GM and some of the others, where they just rebadge cars for the heck of it. The most funny one to me was the Chevy Cavalier and the Cadillac. I think it was the Cimarron. Who would buy a Cadillac that's a Cavalier kind of thing? But they offered it, and that's what got their bad reputation, to where Honda and Toyota and some of the other imports from Germany came in and took their lunch. And it took a while for them to even get their reputation back to where American buyers were willing to buy those vehicles. All the while, the import companies were now building some of the cars in the States. So we saw things like Buick with the JD Power Associates Awards eventually, take the quality titles from Toyotas and Honda, but there's still a bit of a stigma where, oh, well, that Toyota lasts forever. But if you've been looking at recalls and things like that, and it's no knock to Toyota, at some point, some companies get so big so fast to the point where they have to churn out things sooner and do maybe a little less R&D or testing, that you're seeing a lot of the engine failures or transmission failures. Some of it could be user error. Some could be this devious plan to say, hey, you don't have to change your oil, but every 10,000 miles. Me being a car enthusiast, the heck with that stuff. It's like, if it's not 3,000 to 5,000 miles, anything longer, you're just asking for trouble. That they basically want the car to last until the warranty expires kind of thing. But that's nor here nor there. Just think of it this way. Xbox gets out of the game, then you only have a couple of options. And those couple of options will probably do similar things in pushing you more towards an online deal, because they make more profits on software and streaming than they ever will on hardware. And yes, they're making profits now, but if you could do less R&D, less investment, less partnering with AMD and having to deal with, let's say, extreme costs as far as tariffs until there's, production here stateside, I think a lot of them are going to start moving in that direction. Now, is there infrastructure intact for that right now as far as streaming? Probably not. And it probably won't be that way for some time. But just take into account that the more players on the field, the better it is for us, the consumer, because we have more options to choose from, as well as they have to be at least somewhat competitive on pricing, which will help our wallets in the long run. Because I'm not looking forward to a $100 game, whether it's Grand Theft Auto that is the first one to claim that title, or somebody else, or maybe they just completely give away or go away from you owning the game and you subscribe to something like GTA, much like WoW, like World of Warcraft. You're basically trapped into a subscription to play it. Same thing with Final Fantasy. Once you get past the first 20 hours or so, I believe, and there's a few others that have it where you're only on a subscription. I mean, one of the big things that I like to do is racing games, and iRacing has turned what used to be, you buy the game, you can mod the game, you continuously play the game. No, they want it where it's a subscription. I'm kind of surprised Madden and 2K haven't tried the same thing, where you pay a monthly fee to always play this online deal. But we'll see where the industry takes us. But Xbox needs to stay, just for the fact that more options, more choice. And it feels like this disingenuous, wanting them to exit, but yet wanting their games is like a contradiction of the century kind of deal. Like, you hate them, but you love their games. You don't want their box to exist, but you want their software on your preferred box. Is it this that you don't want to buy another box? Or is it that you don't want others to be able to enjoy it before it comes over to your platform, as far as this time exclusivity type of approach? But I've rambled enough. It's a silly argument to want Xbox to leave.
Well, you know what? Great points all around so far. And yes, Xbox isn't going anywhere. Again, this is an Elseworlds conversation, but it is a conversation nonetheless. And I want to bring Infinite Umbra in on this conversation. Infinite Umbra, on Fuzzy's way out of his thoughts, he made mention of one company doing things that the other company isn't. And when you look at what Derek Strickland said, I'm going to read it verbatim again. Derek Strickland, who of course is the operator and owner of Tweaktown, said Xbox exiting gaming would have such an enormously negative drag effect on the industry that it would upend the entire thing. Y'all still don't understand how big Xbox is on a software and services level. It's fine to criticize, but don't call for the destruction of your hobby. And I want to add some additional points to what Derek had to say. When you look at what Xbox is doing right, value. Now, that's a proposition that is up in the air. Some people feel that the increase in Game Pass is not valuable. And if you do, you can either stop the service, like many people have, or you can drop down to a lower tier, which I would not do, right? But when you hear some of the bigger naysayers of Xbox, who are just trolls looking for engagement, they'll say that their platform of choice is better. But they look at Xbox, and I think a lot of the Xbox has got to get out of here is because Xbox is doing things with their services that the other guys aren't. Like the Game Pass, yes, it went up. Yes, that sucks. But it's day-and-day games. And is Sony doing that? The answer is no. Would Sony be one of the first to charge you $100 for a game that's not 2K? Yes, if they could, they would. And I think the reason why they haven't is because of everyone else. When you hear stories or you read stories being posted by Derek Strickland or by Pure Xbox, or even Jez Corden of Windows Central asking why is there such a ginormous hate narrative towards Xbox, you realize that it is not just as simple as the Xbox tax, which I still believe exists and other people don't, and that's fine. But this is a perfect example of it actually existing because people want the brand gone. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, well, first off, good morning to you all. Morning, Boom. Morning, Corkenstein.
Morning, sir.
Steinenstein.
Morning, brother.
Bob. What's up, brother? And what's up, Fuzzy, my brother? Good morning, chat. Yeah, the Xbox tax definitely exists. I don't know why it's such a controversial thing for people. I feel like people feel like they have to deny it to sound like I'm different from them. I'm not going to believe those theories, right? The conspiracy theories. Well, my coffee, my as my borrowed Keosanti and Everborn's aluminum kufi right now. So I'll just say what it is. It's not the typical, it's some cabal thing. That's not what the Xbox tax is. The Xbox tax is a bias, right? And it's an unconscious bias a lot of times. That's just what it is. And we saw it. We all saw it if you were ever paying attention when Microsoft first entered into gaming. There was this you don't belong here mentality.
You're not one of us mentality.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess to borrow from the great legendary poet Kendrick Lamar, you're not like us. They not like us, and it's to be much more clear. But I think, yeah, there is a tax in the sense of, like I said, a bias, a prejudice, right? And we've seen it bear out. I've been in, before I ever joined Twitter, I was on different sites, websites, be it GameFAQs, be it NeoGAF, the horrible site that is, to Reset Era, another horrible site. And that mentality is all there, right? They're in all those places. Is very much a us versus them mentality. And like, you don't belong. That's what Microsoft has always gotten. So when Microsoft makes any missteps, such as what people perceive as a misstep with the price raise or hike with Game Pass, you best believe these people who base their identities on these platforms will absolutely pounce on them, and that's what that is. It's going to go away after a while, or at least it'll subside. I don't want to say it go away. It'll subside after a while. Microsoft is just going to have to deliver, right? That's every time, if you notice, when there is this surge of hate toward Xbox, when they deliver, that kind of subsides, right? Even the haters eventually have to, move on to a new narrative, right? And that's really what it comes down to. This $30 price tag thing is going to linger over them for a while until they start delivering heavy games next year, right? Like we're already guaranteed 3 or 4 more games this year from them, first party or second party, whatever you want to call it. But next year, the idea is you're supposed to get 75 games with the Ultimate Tier. If they can deliver some high quality third party games, as we talked about before, Boom, and I'm not talking about like I said before, Pock Rocket 3, which, by the way, there was a game launched on it, by the way, the other day that was close to that name. I laughed really hard when I saw it. I forgot what it was. It was something Pock something. I was like, you know what?
That exists.
I forgot what it was, but I saw it the other day. Shout out to our brother Idle Sloth. He was posting in some stuff, and I saw it. I'm like, that looks awful. Did I speak this into existence? Anyway, all of that said, when they start delivering heavy, and Snakebite 3, that's right, Thanos. I forgot about Snakebite 3. But if they deliver some heavy third-party games along with first-party next year, which we expecting some great first-party next year, right? I don't think 2025 is some fluke. I think this is going to continue as long as they can continue giving them. He said, "Pot Rocket is fire." But as long as they can continue delivering like quality, they've been somebody I was debating with them back and forth, and Cork knows. We were going back and forth, and they're like, "Oh, Xbox didn't deliver." Like, what are you talking about? All they did was deliver this year.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you need to see from them? Like, what are you talking about? The only thing you can really be upset with is, you're being displeased on how they've moved their businesses, decisions, like as far as being a third-party publisher and things like that. A lot of people still take umbrage with that. No pun intended when I say that. But so like they take umbrage with that, and they put that off on, well, they're not making the right moves. No, they're making the right moves, just not the moves you would desire, right? And again, that brings a lot of distrust. It brings a lot of ire, and because people, Satna said, infinite umbrage. That brings a lot of that because most gamers, I would imagine, at least most hardcore, we are traditionalists, right? We it's hard for some people to adapt and move and understand where Microsoft is going, but Microsoft has always been kind of future forward. And if you're really paying attention, and sometimes to their detriment, as we've seen, right? The whole DRM situation, or excuse me, I said it right, DRM situation and fiasco. Sony was about to do it too. And it was actually going to be more beneficial for us when they did it, because I believe it was going to be like something ridiculous, like 5 or 6 people being able to be like on the Game Pass or something like on a game with something. I forgot how it went at the time. My mind is fuzzy right now. No Belvedere. But yeah, I had to do it, fuzzy. I had to. But
Pun totally intended, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm scattered right now because I'm trying to make sure I don't, go to sleep and people start calling me infinite slumber. But yeah, like seriously, like there are a lot of things that Microsoft has done where they've moved forward, I think, before gamers were ready to move that way. And I think that's sometimes come back to bite them. Sometimes it's going away. I mean, the whole TV thing, right? That still haunts them, even though you look at it now, and that's you got these platforms used as that. I see people sometimes on Xbox, or I would have said PlayStation, but I ain't turned that thing on in so long. But Xbox, you look on there and you'll see people like, I'm watching YouTube. Heck, almost every other time I turn on, I see Hargeet on YouTube. I'm like, do you play, or are you watching somebody play? But I'm saying all that to say, like, people do use this now for what Microsoft originally said that they would use it for now. So, like, but they got punished for it before, So I think that sometimes comes back to bite them. But if Microsoft can stem the tide of this and continue to deliver going into the future, Thriller, he said I got the deep Barry White going right now. But yeah, like as long as they can continue to deliver when it comes to that, a lot of this will subside. This right here is just it's the latest it's the latest thing for people right now who have a little ammo now because Microsoft introduced these new prices, right? Or at least a new price, I should say, for Ultimate, and it's something they can easily bag them with. Right now, they can easily use Lena Khan, and I saw people like, "Oh, thank you, we should have listened to you," and I've seen all those things. You were right all along, Queen. And that other lady with what's that blonde lady with the former Microsoft employee that has video?
Laura Fryer.
Yeah,
Laura Fryer.
Yeah.
And people I've seen people, it's easy to go to them like, yeah, see, we've been saying it all along, Xbox. See, now they're saying it too. It's like, it's easy to use that, right? So once that they actually deliver, a lot of that will subside. That's the way I see it. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is. It's just it comes with the territory, fellas. It comes with we are all seasoned bots in here. Like we're well past. We're trained. It's just something we're going to have to endure, and Microsoft is going to have to deliver. If they don't deliver, then hey, let them get the smoke. But yes. I think they will.